So we just took some time and made some very simple houses and some simple stores using very simple shapes. And what we can do today for this lesson is you guys can take some of those same either homes, or we can expand on the stores and put several stores together. We're gonna make a little community. So I'll give you an example. Here I did one ahead of time. And I should mention too, with the drawings that we did earlier, I just took a thin black marker and I went over each of those pencil lines, and then I went back and erased the pencil lines so that I was left just with the thin black line. From here, if you want, you could always add a little bit of a watercolor wash. You could also go back with crayons or with markers, and it's fun to add details. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose some of those and put them together, and I'm gonna end up with sort of a little community. So here you can see I've got a pet store, and I've got a couple of these houses, and then we've got a bakery here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at some of these basic shapes that I had from my houses and from the buildings before, and I'm just gonna sketch those out ahead of time. And I like to sort of have different heights so that they're not just all straight across, because I think it's interesting when you have the varying heights of buildings. And I might start with just a rectangle up here. And now notice I'm drawing with my whisper lines, which are the really quiet, light lines. I'm gonna have this rectangle come down a little bit lower. And actually, this is a little smaller piece of paper, so I might make, let's see, do I have room? I'm just gonna make 3. All right, and then I'm gonna do another rectangle right here. All right, and with these, now that I've got the basic shapes, I'm gonna decide, and I think I'm gonna have a roof on this one, and maybe I'll make this just a flat roof so it'll end up having this trapezoid right on top. Again, I'm just doing these very simple shapes with a whisper line that I'll go over in a minute. This I'm gonna do my bakery that I did before, so I'm gonna have this very thin, long rectangle. I'm gonna leave room for a rectangle for the door. And then remember how I was able to use a trapezoid to make it into an awning. So here I've got my trapezoid with some half circles repeated underneath. Okay, and then with a square coming down to make that window. All right, and then on this last one, I think what I'll do is I will divide this in half and have just a couple of windows up here with a balcony. So I've drawn this long rectangle, and now I'm going to draw a couple windows inside that. And I'm going to draw a rectangle on top there so that I can draw little awnings there. All right, and now I need to have a door here. I'm going to do a door here. I want to keep my doors about the same height. And maybe I would have a nice long window here. And I'm gonna do the same thing I did before with a half circle. And then maybe I'll just have one window in the middle right here with a half circle. Okay, and now I've got room here for a nice size window. This could be a real big window since I don't have an awning there. And then I want to make sure I've got room for another sign so we know what kind of storefront this is. Okay, so I've sketched out my basic shapes. Again, take a moment and look. If you guys know how to make a rectangle, a half circle, trapezoid, squares, this is all easy to put together to make into these storefronts. So the fun part for me is always adding details. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over some of those lines that I had before, but I'm going to make them a little bit darker, so I'm sort of committing to a line. I'm going to make the shingles just by doing that, the half circle repeated, or it's almost like I'm doing a wave in the ocean. And remember that I'm going to put those offset from each other so that it looks like they're overlapping. Okay? And then for these little awnings, I'm going to make sure that they are a nice half circle. I'm going to draw one line straight up in the center, so I'm dividing each of those. And then I'm going to have a line in between. And it almost looks like an umbrella. Can you guys see that? And now I'm going to take a minute and finish this off with a thinner rectangle underneath. And then I can add some curtains back there if I want. And draw this where I've got, again, a little thin rectangle showing the ledge. Put a little cross on the inside of that. I'm going to add a square for a window, the circle for the doorknob, and then come down here. And maybe I'll do a rectangle down here too, so we've got the step. Okay. So next, I'm coming over and I'm just committing to some of these lines, and I'm going over these rectangles. And my trapezoid here. And remember how we were able to make this into an awning by taking the tip of one of those half circles and bringing it up here. And you'll notice this middle line goes straight up and down. The other kind of go more along the same angle as the edge there. Now I'm going to just commit to this. And maybe I'll do 4 windows this time. Do you notice how my windows aren't perfect? They're not exactly the same size. That's okay. I think it gives your little town some character. And now this part is fun. You can make this a bookstore and add some books. You can make this a pet store, a bakery, whatever you want to do. In fact, if you wanted to make a bookstore, you could just draw some rectangles at different heights and different widths showing that they're books, and maybe one book would be down like this. Maybe you would have a book that looked like it was open. So I've got a rectangle here, and then I'm going up on either side and coming straight down. And now watch this. If I just draw a few little lines off to the side and then bring a little tiny line at the same angle as the edge of the book there, it's going to make it look like there are little pages in the book. You guys see that? Okay, so I could make this a bookstore. Or you could come up with a name. Sky's the limit. Guys can use your creativity. All right, now I'm going to come down and I'm going to just make another building. Maybe the top is like a apartment building, and I'm just going to, for fun, draw some little stripes up here. And I'll make these into windows. Since this is a balcony, what I'm going to do is have it be a little bit longer than where those windows are. And now I'm just going to draw some X's all the way across. And that makes it kind of interesting too. Okay, I'm going to draw a line across here, and maybe I'll even make that 2 lines so it looks like a ledge with some little squares that make it look like it's supporting that ledge. And if you notice, those squares there are awfully close to my sign. So I'm going to redo that sign and make it a little bit shorter. I lost some of my little squares there from the support. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to make this into a sign coming down. So I'll make my window more like down here. And I'll want that door up to here. All right, and you can make, let's say we make this a pet store. That's always fun. Maybe in the pet store you have a cage, and I'm just doing this elongated, it's like an oval that I've cut the bottom off of here. And now I'm going to make this a little bit thicker so that's the tray that the cage is on. And I could make a little bird on a bird swing. And maybe down here, if I have room, I could add a rectangle with a circle inside and this tiny little hamster, as if it's in a hamster wheel. And then I might want to add a couple of lines across so it looks like it is in a cage. Do you guys see that? All right, so basically, I just used the same shapes again, just one right next to each other, and I was able to put some together to make a community. What's really fun is you could do this on several pieces of paper and just string them all together. Okay, from here, it's up to you what you want to do. You can go back again and add some watercolor wash or color it in with crayon. You could even just leave it in black and white, but really get into the details. So I hope you have fun putting together those basic shapes, and I would love to see the communities you guys come up with. Good luck.